You're now listening to the Shift Training Show, where we're focused on positively impacting the quality of human interaction, and we're exploring that through the lens of holistic health and personal development. Today, we're going to be focusing on looking at a few different elements that influence our interactions with others. We're going to be looking from a macro lens or like big picture view, and then we're going to look at the micro, small term, short term, little things like that. Vaughn, let's kick off.
All right, let's kick off with culture. Let's start with that.
All right, bet. Culture. That's the first one to start to influence us, and it's a very big thing. So macro, what are your thoughts? Where do you want to start?
I would say that culture is what influences us. It's kind of like a rule book, what we follow when we were young. And that culture have different kinds of rules. Like, for example, some culture, they show respect in a different way. They talk to an authority in a different way. Some culture would say that, don't show any emotions, or, be strong, be independent. And some be like, have more, community around you, things like that. So I think about culture is more so like, if you think about the water in a fish tank, and, fish are like swimming around there, the fish doesn't notice it. Think about that. The environment is what influenced them. So I believe that if we are aware of what our culture are, and we would not think that different culture is a bad thing. Sometimes it's just different. So building that awareness builds that empathy.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that that's a challenge too. Is like you said, just building the awareness. Just building the awareness of what is the water you're swimming in, and is the water you're swimming in going to be where you want to be, or how you want to show up, or how you want to interact with other people, and not knowing how much of your own perspective is influenced by the culture, right? So that's a whole thing in itself, a whole thing just for self-awareness alone. But culture is one of the big players in how we show up, how we interact with other people. Again, in some cultures, you might show up as the guest. You think everything's supposed to be given to you, like your royalty. And in some cultures, it's like, you're a guest. How dare you come to this house with no gift to offer, So be mindful of those cultural differences. Be mindful of how maybe your own upbringing influences you, and how it affects how you show up with other people, right? So cool. I think that's solid for culture. Got anything else?
That would be it. I think something funny that comes to mind is like our culture in the Philippines. It's like when you enter someone's house, you have to take off your slippers, take them off. Sign of respect. Yeah.
Absolutely. Cool. Yeah, don't bring in the dirty feet.
Exactly.
Cool. So the next area we'll go into, I think, is a big one. It's past experiences, and these are all kind of influenced by culture, right? So we're just making our way through here. But it's past experiences, values, beliefs, and identity. So past experiences, what you value, what you believe, and that being part of your identity. Your past experiences, people seem to really understand this way more about trauma these days. They like using the word trauma and understanding that the trauma is why they behave a certain way. It's good to have that awareness. There's some more nuance in there, but it's good to have at least that level of awareness. And then, what do you value and what do you believe? Because even what you value is going to influence what you believe. And sometimes your beliefs can prevent you from getting to what you value. And sometimes your identity can stop you from believing the things that would help you to get to the things that you value, and allow you to conduct yourself differently than your past experiences, especially when you show up with other people.
Right. Yeah, 100%. I think I think of like every past experiences that we had is like a backpack that we carry in every conversation. If we are somebody who grew up in a place where heavily criticized, then we become more, defensive. And if somebody, grew up in a place where they feel invisible, then when they grew up, they wanted to feel seen, or maybe they talk louder, or maybe if they're overgiver there, then they become more, like kind of like people pleasing in the future. So I think understanding what's the past, it helps us, understand the other people around us.
Absolutely. And this is why it's important to listen to people and ask questions. Like, curiosity is our friend, right? That's how we get to even build up an understanding about someone's past experiences and go, oh, that does make sense that you respond that way, or that you might do that. Now, there's a whole different level when it comes to boundaries or things like that. That's another conversation. But for now in this moment, I would say that being aware of someone's past can help you, but also being aware of your own past and being aware of like how you respond to things. So if you know that, well, I'm probably reacting this way based on my past experience, and I don't per se need to act like that in this moment because it might not be the exact same situation, even though it feels similar, it might not be identical. And that's worth looking into it. And then, what I think should supersede the past experiences is, what is it you really value? I think the values should stand substantially higher. Like if I were going to reorganize or prioritize these, I think what you value should be guiding what set of beliefs you choose to have or you abide by, and also the identity that you are willing to invest into. Because sometimes like for example, if I say that I am the way that I am now and this is how I am, and I think that the whole world or my whole perspective about everything, all of my beliefs have to keep how I am today intact, then that means that how I am today, if it will not take me to the things that I value the most, I can never get to them because I am feeding the beliefs that say that my current identity is the only identity that needs to exist. When in reality, growth and change are a constant in life. And if you're not willing to make that sacrifice or pay the fee, or you don't have a desire to update your identity to become the person who could carry the types of beliefs that lead to the things that you really value in your life, I don't think that it's going to work. I don't think it's going to be an effective strategy. I think you have to be willing to adapt. And for some people are not interested in that. Some people want to or need to just feel safe and comfortable where they're at in the moment. I think if you have, let's say, if that's a core need of humans, my running theory is like, if you have enough of that, at some point you'll go, now what? And at that point, when you hit the now what question, I think then you'll be ready to go, how could I grow? How could I evolve? But when you're interacting with people, I think you have to be very mindful of where they might be in that journey or in that process in their life.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we always need to update our beliefs or our identity. The values that we have when we were maybe 10, it's completely different when we're like on our 30s, right? And I think a good analogy, just going back a little bit, is if you touch a hot stove before, then you're going to have that nervous system to be like, in the future, you're going to be more careful. So in terms of people interaction, we all have history. So there are certain words or action that we say or do will, affect others. And just being mindful of that would be very helpful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's go into that next layer. The next layer on the macro. So we've done culture, past experiences, values, beliefs, identity. We're going to go into perception and aim. So our perception and aim is like highly influenced by our values, beliefs, identity, right? How we even perceive the world. So if I believe that I am a salesperson and I have to hit sales goals, then I'm going to do the things that lead me towards that if that's something that I genuinely value and believe to be true, or believe that that's a must. So I think that that's an interesting one. Vaughn, what are your thoughts on that?
I think my thoughts on that is how you see the situation changes how you act. So, for example, your aim is to win. You might argue a lot, or if your aim is to connect, then you're gonna have to listen to what the person has to say. Or the last example would be like, let's say if you want to protect yourself, some people, they would just shut down or like avoid it. So I think that your aim is what creates that direction. So, if we don't have a lot of practice on this, maybe conflict, then that might be your default, is to avoid. However, it is something that we can learn. It is a skill. It's not something that we are born to, be good naturally.
Yeah, absolutely. The aim decides everything. Yeah. Decides your frame of reference. And it can pivot everything. Like, I'm sure maybe some of you guys have had this experience. Maybe you haven't, but I have. Where you had a moment where, in the moment you have a particular aim, you think you want something, maybe you want to talk to somebody, and you may act or conduct yourself differently than you might normally. You might act outside of your normal value system because you have a particular aim, and the aim might not be the right aim. And then, a little bit of self-betrayal occurs, a little bit of now I'm not congruent. And then you're going to deal with that. How did that feel? And usually that interaction eventually, even if it went well the first couple times, eventually that interaction sours.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think, yeah, if you think about it, if you're in the same room but playing a different game, so those two different aim, right? So I think it's very important to ask yourself a question of like, what is my aim right now? So that way, if there's an alignment, then good. If it's not, then it becomes chaotic.
Absolutely. Facts. All right, cool. Anything else for those?
That'll be it.
All right, macro. Next, skills and habits. So for example, self-awareness, communication, avoidance, collaboration. What are the skills? What are the habits that we tend to practice? So for example, I think someone who works in HR, they're going to have certain skills that they regularly practice that help them usually in a good, proper environment. They're not setting up a trap, but they actually better understand how to interact with people as part of their job or part of their role to be able to look out for people. So I think that if that's your responsibility and that's how you conduct yourself and that's the skills that you use and habits, because you practice them all the time, like it's going to show up in the way that we interact with other people. If I'm somebody who, for whatever reason, has to constantly be defensive or on edge because of whatever it is in my life that makes me do that, and I keep repeating that, that shows up in how I interact with other people. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, like I mentioned earlier, I think that all of this that you mentioned, self-awareness, collaboration, communication, avoidance, I think they are a skill. It's not something that you're born with. So if you practice, hard conversation with other people, then that allows you to have a better relationship and a healthy relationship with other people. And I think that, if you think about brushing your teeth, it's second nature. So it's the same thing with communication. You have to practice them many times so it becomes more natural to you.
Absolutely. Cool. So those are a lot of the macro. So for macro, we're going to just do a quick recap. So for the long term and for the macro, we covered culture, past experiences, values, beliefs, identity, perception and aim, and then skills and habits. Hey everyone, just cutting in really quick. We want to give a shout out to First Form. We are promotional partners with them and we love their supplements. Now, my personal favorite is actually the recovery stack. And the reason why is because I'm not some spring chicken and I don't have overnight healing. However, when I do take this, I do wake up feeling refreshed, revitalized, and less sore and able to continue the grind. So if you're interested in getting a recovery stack for you, check the link in the description and let's get back to the show. So for the short term, we're going to go into the micro. These are things that go into things we might more easily notice or in the day-to-day. They might even be the things that make us forget about the macro, which is not to be forgotten. So let's get started. We're going to start with temporary circumstances or situations. Something happened, something came up. There's this going on or that going on. These are short term, these are micro. So let's begin, Vaughn. Where do we got? How does some of those micro things, the situations, the circumstances popping up, how does that influence the way we show up for things?
Right. I think some people are not that difficult. Sometimes they might just be having a hard day, maybe stress from work, stress from their family, stress from their partner, whatever happened it is. So think about it this way. If you have like a little rock on your shoes, then you might walk differently, So it's something that is temporary. It's not like a long term. So don't judge them by just the first impression. Sometimes, just give them, what will happen there, what's going on.
Absolutely. Context does matter. And a good example of this, I think, is sometimes we are very aware of when we, let's say, have lower energy that day, like I didn't sleep so good, a little bit more cranky than I was before, something like that, or hangry. These are all short-term things. Now, some of these might be repeating and showing up as patterns or habits, but in the short term and the micro, certain circumstances happen. Situations throw us off. A change in schedule, flat tire, something just being abnormal, dictating almost how we're going to show up when we are speaking with others.
Yeah, I think I like what you said about the physical energy there. I think if we don't have a good night's sleep or our energy is low, we have a certain capacity. So we have, less patience, short temper. So I think that's why it's so important to have the energy in check.
Yeah, facts. Well, that takes us right to our next one, which is physical energy level. That's what we're going to talk about next, is physical energy level. That's one of those things where it's like when we don't manage our physical energy levels, if you're not taking care of your body, if you're not getting quality rest, all the essentials, which you'll hear us talk about a gajillion times, when you're not doing those things, your capacity to show up is lessened. So if you needed 100% of your energy because you're trying to do 110% effort in your life, or you want to be able to show up fairly well for people, you get to the time of the day where you like completely have no energy left. You're already in the negatives and someone asks something of you that might be challenging or demanding. Your nervous system is going to be like, yeah, give me that energy that you don't have. And you're going to just conk out. Like you're going to be, it's not going to be good. You're going to default to whatever behavior, and that behavior might not be the best behavior, might not be the best response. And that interaction is probably going to be questionable.
Right. I think of this as like, if you don't have that energy, think of it like a battery in your phone. So if you have like 5%, they start to glitch, you know, you have the matrix. So
Good luck.
There's some lags and things like that. So it becomes questionable, like you said.
All right, cool. And our last short-term item is going to be the choices that we make and decision-making, basically. Choices and decision-making, opportunities, things being presented to us influence that. So for example, if I see that, well, let's say I have a choice. The choice is option A or option B. And option A might lead me to focus on, I don't know, something where it's like, what can I get out of this? And option B might be like, where can I give? Like, what is the option B is going to lead you more towards giving or sowing a seed or helping or benefiting others, more like service, right? So in making those choices, it will influence a lot around us, especially in how we interact with other people. So for example, if I'm interacting with somebody because I want something from them versus interacting with somebody because I want to give them something, it is going to completely change the nature of our interaction.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it's not, you always have an option, right? So I think of this more of like you have respond to react, or you respond in a way that's like you pause, right? I think if you pause, you have a better way to handle things, because when you react, it's fast, it's emotional. When you respond, it's slower, it's more intentional.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take our time to do those things. So for the short term, the micro things, it's temporary circumstances or situations. Something comes up and it seems really urgent. It might seem like it's the biggest thing, but don't forget the macro. This is a temporary thing. It shall pass. Physical energy levels. Guess what? Almost every day we get a chance to try again. I would say you want to try and get yourself on a hot streak. Try to do like a good week where you're doing things to help your energy level and get a test going, you know, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe 30 days, you know, give it a go to see how that influences the way you show up in your life. And then the choices and decision making. Again, the choices and decisions that we make influence so much. So we went from like macro to like micro, but at the same time, that scale or ladder, I think, works both ways. It's small decisions that we get to make, like, for example, making effort to improve our physical energy levels and choosing how we want to show up in those temporary circumstances or situations, that might not align with our normal skills and habits, but lead us to develop new skills and new habits. Maybe we are consciously choosing to change our aim, therefore influencing our perception. And maybe we are consciously willing to believe that we can be someone else, believe that we can be someone else, and choose the values that will guide us to be that person that we wish to become. And maybe we have an opportunity to grow in a way where we can supersede the fish tank that we're in, right? We want to supersede the culture, escape the culture escape maybe,
the culture,
or be the person
culture escape.
Yeah, or be the person who positively influences the culture of their family. It might be you. You might be the one. So it works up and down, and it's just a matter of where do you want that to flow? Do you want it to flow from you, or do you want it to flow from someone else? Do you want it to come top down to you, or do you want to be making those decisions outward?
Right. Yeah, they're all interconnected there.
Absolutely. And they all will influence how we interact with other people. Vaughn, do you have any closing thoughts for them before we wrap up?
So what is one thing you can do to improve your interaction with others?
All right. I love it. All right, let's wrap up. Everyone, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you have any questions, comments, thoughts, please drop them. Please share this episode with somebody, and we hope that you'll join us on the next one.